My boss fired me for not performing, despite my bringing in 40% of the company's revenue. We need hungrier talent who can meet higher targets, he explained while handing me the termination papers. The company is moving in a new direction. I smiled, thanked him for the opportunity, and left. The next day was going to be fun. We need hungrier talent who can meet higher targets, Brian explained while sliding the termination papers across the polished conference table. The company is moving in a new direction. My name's Darren McCabe, 46 years old, 9 years as senior account executive at Triana Corp in Kansas City, Missouri. I'd spent nearly a decade building a client portfolio that accounted for almost 40% of the company's revenue. No shortcuts, just long days, constant travel, and relationships built on trust. I smiled, thanked him for the opportunity, and walked out without argument. Brian Ellsworth had arrived 6 months ago as our new vice president of sales, brought in by the CEO to reinvigorate the team. He wore custom suits, spoke in tired motivational phrases, and had never once joined me on a client call. 3 weeks after starting, he'd implemented a new commission structure that slashed my earnings by 20%, despite my numbers being consistently strong. The signs were there. My desk had been moved to a corner during office renovations. My name disappeared from meeting invites. Yesterday, I'd noticed IT servicing my computer while I was at lunch. Small things, not worth mentioning, but enough to know something was coming. I packed 9 years into a single cardboard box, family photos, a coffee mug my daughter had painted, and a folder of client contact information I'd kept separate from the company database. Just habit, really. Need help with that? Asked Valerie from accounting. She looked genuinely confused. Are you changing offices? Something like that, I replied, not wanting to make a scene. On the elevator ride down, I stood next to Everett Stanton, our CEO. He nodded without really seeing me, too focused on his phone. He had no idea what Brian had just done or what it would mean for quarterly projections, but he would soon enough. Walking to my car, I didn't feel anger, just a strange sense of clarity, like waking up from a long, comfortable dream to find the house was never really yours to begin with. I drove home in silence. No calls, no radio, just thinking about tomorrow. My phone buzzed as I pulled into my driveway. Travis Ricks, my biggest client. The annual contract renewal was next week. He'd texted me about dinner reservations for when he'd be in town. He didn't know yet. Nobody did. I set the phone on the kitchen counter without answering and looked out the window. 9 years of client relationships, all built on my word and my reliability. Brian didn't just fire an employee today, he'd cut the only line connecting Trevant to millions in revenue, and he had no idea. I joined Trevant back when it was still called Midwestern Financial Services, before the rebranding and the fancy downtown office. Everett hired me himself, straight from a competitor where I'd been hitting targets but getting passed over for promotion. I want someone who knows this market, he'd said. Someone clients trust. For 7 years, he was right to trust me. I built our client base from regional businesses to national accounts, extended our contracts from 1-year terms to 3 and 5, brought in Lockhart Manufacturing when they left our biggest competitor, added the Henderson Group when nobody thought we had a chance. My wife Rebecca used to joke that I was married to my clients. Thursday night dinner with the Johnsons again? She'd ask, already knowing the answer. The kids grew used to me missing ball games and recitals. Dad's working became their normal. I promised it would be worth it someday. 3 promotions, 2 office expansions, and 1 recession later, Trevant had grown from a $4 million operation to a $30 million enterprise, with my accounts responsible for about $12 million of that. Not that anyone had calculated the exact percentage until Brian arrived. The first red flag appeared during a quarterly review meeting 3 months after Brian took over sales. Your client acquisition rate has flatlined, he said, pointing to a chart that showed I'd only added 2 new accounts that quarter. Because I'm focused on expanding existing relationships, I explained. The Lockhart contract just doubled. The future is in new business, Brian insisted. We need hunters, not farmers. A week later, my executive assistant Julia was reassigned. The following month, my travel requests required additional approval. My expense reports came back with questions. Small things, death by 1,000 cuts. I started hearing whispers about fresh talent being interviewed, young MBAs with aggressive pitches and no industry experience. Brian called them disruptors. Last month, he hired Alicia Winters, 29, from a tech startup. During her first week, she was assigned to join me on a call with Travis Ricks. No explanation, no proper introduction, just showing her the ropes. Travis noticed. After the call, he texted me, "Who's the new girl? Are you training your replacement?" I laughed it off, just expanding the team, but driving home that night, I felt something shift in my gut, the kind of certainty that comes from years of reading boardrooms and client faces. Something wasn't right. I should have trusted that feeling sooner. I placed my cardboard box on the kitchen counter and poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon. The house was empty. Rebecca was at her sister's place in Denver for the week, helping with a new baby. Probably for the best. I needed the quiet. I pulled out my personal phone and scrolled through my contacts. 9 years of relationships, over 200 clients, vendors, and industry connections. People who trusted me to handle their business. People who'd signed with Trevant because of me, not our corporate marketing or flashy downtown office. My work phone, now sitting disabled in the box, contained only the official correspondence, the dinner invitations, the golf outings, the personal cell numbers of CEOs and decision makers. Those were all here on my personal device, information I'd accumulated by being someone people wanted to work with. I sipped my drink and felt a strange calm settle over me. No panic, no desperation about mortgage payments or health insurance, just a clear understanding of what had happened and what would happen next. The bourbon burned going down. 9 years of 60-hour weeks, of missed family dinners and little league games. 9 years of building something I thought was mine, only to discover it wasn't. I opened my laptop and pulled up my employment contract. The non-compete clause was there but limited in scope, 1 year, and only applicable if I left voluntarily. Being terminated changed things. There was no legal barrier to taking my clients elsewhere. My phone buzzed. Travis again, dinner reservation confirmed for Thursday, looking forward to discussing the renewal. I stared at the message for a long time. Travis Ricks represented $1.7 million in annual business for Trevant. His company, Lockhart Manufacturing, had been with me for 6 years, before that, 3 years at my previous firm. Almost a decade of trust, and he wasn't alone. The Henderson Group, Westfield Properties, Carlton Industries, together, they accounted for another $1.5 million. All of them had contract renewals coming up in the next 30 days. All of them dealt exclusively through me. I set my glass down and made a decision. I wouldn't call anyone tonight, wouldn't send angry emails or make threats. I'd sleep on it, wake up clear-headed, and then make exactly 3 phone calls, not to vent or complain, just to inform my closest clients that I was no longer with Trevant, effective immediately. The rest would happen on its own. I took out the family photos from my box, my daughter's graduation, my son's wedding, the trip to Yellowstone we almost canceled because of. You can click on share and more to see if there is a part 2.